Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the J Free 906 podcast, the Freeman Files, here tonight. And Tom Burns, how you doing, Tom?
Hello, hello, hello. Just great. Never felt better, had less, or wanted more.
Well, that's awesome. I wish I could feel that great. Oh, thanks for joining us here tonight, folks. We appreciate it very, very much. We are going to be talking about The Curse of Oak Island, season 12, episode number 17, Boots on the Ground tonight. We're going to cover that a little bit in depth, and if we have some time tonight, I think this one we should be able to get through it relatively quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about the Tales that was on. I don't know if anybody saw that. There was a Tales of Oak Island. It was on at 5:00 yesterday afternoon here in the Eastern time zone. Anyway, it was on at 5:00. It was pretty good. It was called Booby Trapped. Was that
Booby trap? You booby trapped, yeah. Don't bother looking for it in Canada because it hasn't even made the schedule yet. So
Yeah. So, spoiler alert, we may talk about that a little bit tonight. It was a good one. I like the Tales. I think the Tales are kind of an interesting
tales
add-on.
are a very good history lesson.
Yes, they are, because they go into, yes, we get a lot of repeated looking back in time and talking about the XRF machine and all that kind of crap that they do. Honestly, way too much. But the Tales kind of dig into these particulars a lot more in depth. You get more than you get from the regular show, so that's why I kind of like them. So
Yeah, if you have someone that comes to you and says, "Oh, what are you watching this Oak Island stuff for?" Say, "Listen, go watch some of these Tales episodes,
mhm.
and you'll understand what the whole Oak Island mystery is all about."
Yeah, I agree.
Just to go turn it on tonight and watch, the most recent episode of The Curse of Oak Island,
Mhm.
you're not going to get it. You're not going to understand what it's all about. But
Exactly.
if you go and look at some of these tales, you're going to see the history. They'll understand it and they'll probably appreciate it a lot more.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right. So as I always say, folks, if you haven't already, we appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up if you like the content of the show we do for you here tonight. We do have a giveaway again tonight, as we always seem to have for the Curse of Oak Island shows. Anyway, and tonight's giveaway, and I'm going to pop this picture up here real quick, are these three items. It's basically it's a bag that's got some printed pictures of Oak Island on there. It looks like the lab and the interpretive center, and then the causeway there, of course, and the monument to those who have passed, and then a shot of Oak Island. And then there's a ranch from a sticker there from Rock Ranch Rescue that Vanessa Lucido is all about. And then there's a sticker or a magnet there. And I guess the bag was Michelle Tomeyer. And of course, the Rock sticker was from Vanessa Lucido and Rock Equipment. And then the magnet there that says I'm an Oak Island nut was from Christina and I when we bought that when we were up in at the Oak Island Treasure Shop. So we got those. So, and I really wanted to also say again, real quick too, for those who have helped to support the show, the Patreon and all of that, I thank you all so very, very much. I really do. It really, truly helps to keep this thing going and keep us on YouTube and all of that. So thank you all so very much. I won't give individual names because there are several of you, but I do appreciate it. And those who contribute in other ways by buying merch like hats and hoodies and stuff like that, thank you. It really helps to keep us going. So I wanted to say thank you again for all of that. So we'll be giving those away here in just a little bit as we go along. And I also, let's see here. Oh, for those of you over on Rumble, I've got that going as well. So I'm watching over on Rumble. I'll try to keep my eyes on the chat over there in case you have anything you want to contribute, questions to ask or anything like that. We'll get you included. So, all right, let's do this. So
let's rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh yeah, I know. That's kind of how the show went. Oh, we're going to talk about the Tales. I mentioned that already. We're going to talk about Tales a little bit tonight too. So, all right. So let's do this. Let's bring this up. All right. So, episode number 17, Boots on the Ground. The guys start off right away at the over at the Money Pit. They got Ken. Is it Dober?
Ken DeBoer.
DeBoer. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Ken DeBoer. He is a ROV specialist, and we've been asking this question for a long time. Why don't they put an ROV down? Why don't they get some cameras down? So here in the Aladdin's Cave, AC1, They're preparing to get that done. There's the guys meeting with him. Also, I noticed that, and I hadn't really put this together in just to the last couple of shows that, Irving Equipment Company was generally out there with the cranes and stuff. And I didn't realize that it was SB Canada that kind of replaced all of that. So they don't have a presence there at all this year, right? So,
I think the air compressors that they're in were from Irving
okay.
Equipment. Yep.
All right. Interesting. SP Canada is doing a great job with all that stuff. There's a picture of the actual rover or ROV. They're not rover, but ROV they're putting down into AC1. And there's, you see the cameras. He was asking him about the sonar. Scout sonar. Yep, we're going to do the sonar first. And then he asked him if there was a camera on it. Oh yeah, there's a camera on it and everything. Yeah. So
nice piece of equipment.
Very, very nice, very expensive, and a piece of equipment that I'm sure they've used in a lot of different types of places. You've mentioned you've seen Ken.
I've seen Ken on different shows involving underwater scanning and things like that, and he's world renowned, recognized, whatever term you want to put on it. Yeah, and he's been on once or twice before too. Yeah, so yeah, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, he does. There's everybody in anticipation as they're putting the rover down, or I keep saying rover, the ROV down there.
It's a rover to a point, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of no wheels on it, but kind of going down in the hole there. And this was kind of what they got here.
Go to test pattern.
Yeah. And so, it kind of hit me a little bit because I was like many of you, I was so excited about this. I really, really wanted to see down into Aladdin's cave one more time. And, we didn't get it. And so, it's like, what is
beat me up, Scotty?
I mean, really, is that the level of what the technology we have? I was really disappointed.
It was, I mean, that had to be like mud soup down there, like for sonar not to pick anything up at all.
I know. I kept thinking, there had to be something wrong. It didn't even seem like it picked up, I mean, anything. Nothing. It was all, the sonar didn't work, anything, nothing. And you and I kind of talked about this a little bit prior to the show starting tonight, as to what could have caused something. I mean, they talked about the being so much silt and mud and particulate in the water, it couldn't see anything.
Yeah. Well, it tells me a couple things. It tells me that the water is not moving because it didn't flush itself out. Right. So you're dealing with some sort of very slow moving, stagnant water. If it had been moving through there at 700 gallons a minute, that thing would have been flushed by now.
Right.
But it wasn't moving that fast or moving at all. So, I mean, they dropped this thing down. I mean, they're going to be, I mean, the water in the Caisson is going to be, how high up the Caisson? I have no idea. It's going to come up to sea level if there's any kind of water pressure there.
Yep.
So, I mean, did they even get out the end of the Caisson? I don't know.
That's what I was wondering. I kept thinking, have they even gotten out of the Caisson? What if they're not even out of it? They kept talking about how it seemed as though they were breaking through the top of the tunnel or the Aladdin's cave. When they were putting it down in there, they said, I think we're breaking through. But we never really heard, we're definitely in. It was always, we think we are. So that's what I kept thinking. Well, maybe they're not even all the way down in there, and they're not. I don't know. They would have to know.
I think they're in there. I think they're in there. I think it's just so much stuff went to the bottom of that hole. It created such a mud pie that I don't care what you put in there, it's not going to settle in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Normally, if you dig a well or whatever, you can leave it sit for a couple of days and it'll settle out. The silt will go to the bottom. In this case, the flocking is supposed to bring it to the top.
Yeah.
Either which way, after a couple of days, if you can't see what's going on down there, at least be able to shine a light and see the light shining, even if the light just made everything brown.
Right.
That's
what I was expecting to see. I was expecting to see the light shining on the stuff right there and reflecting back a brown image or a light brown, because
Yep.
the light that is going to shine on the, that's why I kept thinking there's got to be something broken. Something's not working the way it should be. Now, obviously, we only saw them messing with this thing for about what, 2 minutes?
Yep.
And they probably were there for a couple of hours trying to
Yep.
get this thing to work properly. My
Probably.
guess is.
And as coach says, when they were lowering it down, when they first hit the water, you saw the murky water,
Mhm.
and then it all goes black.
Yeah.
Like total lack of any kind of light, ambient light, sunlight,
Yeah.
man-made light, anything. There's just no light. It's black. So
Yeah.
it just blew my mind when everything went that wonky.
Yeah, I was really let down. And you could see the guys' faces. I mean, all of them were just really disappointed by all of this, and
Yep.
the money and the time. They said it was several days. They let it sit. Some people were saying 4 days. I saw in the chat here. They said letting it sit for several days with the flocculent in there. I don't know. It was just a total letdown to me because I was so excited. Now, here's the other thing about Aladdin's Cave. When they pull that caisson out of there, now we know that Aladdin's Cave was an open cavity at some point because we saw a camera down there a couple of
Yep.
years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They saw those stones down there. They saw
Yep.
what looked like cut stones down there. They had samples of the water showing wood organic material in the samples of the water.
Mhm.
So, but we didn't see wood. We didn't clearly see a tunnel leading out of there, but we did see quite a bit. Now, here's the thing. When they pull that caisson out of there, they got to backfill the hole.
Exactly.
So is Aladdin's Cave no more? Is it gone? Is
I
it
don't know what
completely
else you
filled?
could do. The only thing you could do would be
You can't. You got to put either a liner or fill
if
it.
you either got to put a liner. If you pull that caisson up, the whole integrity of all the hole around the caisson, everything's been drilled and punched and bored so much there that it's all just going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you got to fill it with something. The only hope you could have would be, in my opinion, would be is if you filled the bottom with boulders, something you could pick out with your hammer
The
grab.
hammer grab
Right?
later on.
And that would stop, because if you start dumping gravel down there, it's going to hit that water. And by the time it gets to the bottom of that water column, it's just going to go flush.
Exactly. It's going to
Right.
flush
So
into
it's going
every.
to fill that whole cavern.
Yep. And at some point, and if it didn't, and if there was a tunnel leading out of it, it's going to slowly filter into that tunnel as well.
It's going to be like a cave in.
It's going to be like a massive cave in. So
the only good side of it would be is that potentially it blocks water flow from other places that they might drill.
That's the only saving grace, in my opinion, on this whole thing, because Aladdin's Cave, and I'm going to talk about this a little more as we go along here in a couple of slides down the way here, because there's a question I have about Chef 6 that we're going to bring up here in a little bit. You should look at the spring after the yeah, exactly. I agree.
The problem is you can't look in the spring because there's not going to be any space to look in. They got to fill it in and remove the caisson.
Yeah, so now it's full of
it's catch-22, right? It's catch-22. Either you leave it open or you fill it in.
Right. And knowing that they took we know they took the caisson out. We pretty sure they did not put a liner in there. They never actually told us what they did.
The only thing you could do if you put a liner in there is do the same thing as they did with C1. Right? Put the liner in, keep it below ground surface level, pull out your caissons, and then cap it off.
Yeah.
If they did that.
Yep.
If they did that.
C1 was the only one that we know that they left it in there, and C1 does have a cavity. Yes, let's get Terry back on. I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And we are. He definitely
wants to come back. But right now they can't even talk about that because it would be giving away the plot, right?
Yes, exactly. So I don't know. Anyway, I was really, and now that they've filled it in, or what appears that they filled it in with backfill, they filled up the entire cave, Aladdin's Cave now, and there's really no sense of ever going back there ever again. And I still think it's tied into this whole thing.
That would be heartbreaking.
End up being the caisson that was left in? No, I don't believe so, David.
And the reason I say I don't think it is, they only brought a little over 200 feet with them.
Yeah.
So to leave that in, they couldn't drill any other holes.
Right. Yep.
They only brought 220, 250 feet with them.
Right. And they were pretty much all in at that point. The one left is just east for TB1. Yes. Yeah. General area there.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yep. exactly.
I think it is.
So what the fuckulent?
Well, we know what's not up, so
Yeah. So they go over to the war room, and next, and they decide to talk in there a little bit about what they're going to do now. So they jump over there. They got the whole crew in. They kind of reflected back because they were talking about Shaft 6, which Rick Lagina, that's been his big thing, his that he always wanted to find Shaft 6. He always had, I guess, even after he read about, the 1965 article, 1967,
1965.
65 article in
Yep.
the Reader's Digest about it. He was all fascinated with Shaft 6 because that's what had been done. And that was Shaft 6 was 1861, was it?
1861.
Mhm.
1861. Yeah.
Right. Now the team had it was the Oak Island Association, right?
Yep. Oak Island Association. Yep.
They
1861.
Yep, and they drilled down and they hit what they thought was two separate, they called them treasure chests, but I'm going to
Yep.
call them treasure boxes or
Mhm.
vault boxes, whatever you want to call them. They thought they hit two of them that were sitting on top of one another. Um, and so they went over to shaft. They did shaft 6, and they said shaft 6 was 18 feet. This is what they said on the show last night. 18 feet west of the money pit,
Yep.
the original money pit shaft. And they thought, well, let's go down and then we'll drill over to it and we'll come up. I still don't understand how they thought this was going to work, because if that they must have thought that original chamber where the two boxes were was not filled with water, not as it shows on this little
Right.
picture drawn here.
They thought by going down below it and coming up underneath it, they would avoid the flood tunnel
Right.
and be able to go directly to the treasure chest.
Yeah. And that didn't pan out either.
That didn't work out.
Yeah. So it filled with water. And then shortly after is when they heard the big collapse. You've got some article. Was that from Scott Clark?
That's from Scott Clark's book. Yep.
Oh, what did it say in there about
Okay,
this?
so anyway, I'll try and skip down through part of it here, but so I'll just jump into it here. They dug this new shaft down 120 feet. Their plan was to intercept the water flow so it would not have a chance to get to the money pit. This, however, did not work. They then dug, that was shaft 5. They then dug a 6th shaft 18 feet west of the money pit. And at 118 feet, they tunneled horizontally to try to enter the money pit between the upper and lower platforms and avoid the drains. Macaulay says they misjudged the starting point, so the tunnel entered the money pit at a little below the lower platform, where they found soft clay that had been reported previously from boring. So they think they were on the right path. The company then bailed water. This is kind of the humorous part. Excuse me. The company then bailed water from the west shaft with the aid of 6 horses for 3 days, when they determined that they didn't have enough horsepower. There you go. They soon returned with 33 horses and over 60 men. They rigged gins and bailing apparatuses on the new shaft to the money pit and the west shaft, and they ran these continuously day and night for 3 days. Macaulay says that the tunnel heading from the west shaft to the money pit, which was 17 feet long, so in other words, they were a foot short of their 18-foot goal, 4 feet high and 3 feet wide, became choked with clay, and they had to send 2 men down to clear it out. As the men were about halfway through clearing out the clay, they heard a tremendous crash in the money pit and barely escaped being caught in the rush of mud, which was followed them into the west pit and filled it up filled it up by 7 feet in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there was pieces of timber that were ejected through there that they were pretty sure that were from the original treasure.
Yep.
Treasure
okay.
So
yeah. So
again, that's all from Scott Clark's book.
Yes, and thank you, Scott, for recording all that very well in there.
Yep.
So
with the appropriate sticky notes. With the appropriate sticky notes.
Yes, with the appropriate sticky notes. So that's what happened back then. That's why they keep talking about this shaft 6 and the collapse that happened that went into that shaft. So if it did, everything that they had dug down, when they got down to the bottom of it, 118 feet or 120,
from shaft 6, 118 feet.
118 feet. So they got down there, and so when that collapse happened, it flushed everything into their
Gone.
tunnel that they were going
Yep.
over 17 feet. It made it
Mhm.
all, made a big mess down there. Okay.
Yep.
So that's why they keep talking about shaft 6. Now, on the show last night, they had said that shaft 6 was 18 feet west of the original money pit.
Hmm.
And you just read from Scott Clark's book that said
Mhm.
the same exact thing,
Same thing.
18
Yep.
feet west.
Yep.
Then he went down 118 feet. They went over 17, and then that's when it all flooded.
Yep. Some notes I had from a couple of years ago, so before Scott Clark's book came out,
Mhm.
said shaft six was up to 25 feet from the money pit. So
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I
So
think
this
18 feet is the accurate one.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
diagram right here is from Steve Guptill. This is his that was shown on the screen that they were
Mhm.
talking about. And this is where I said, keep in mind this 18 feet in the west and all that,
Mhm.
because uh, here's the north, south, east, and west up here in the corner. You see it right here.
Mhm.
The little thing. Okay. So if it's 18 feet west of the money pit, look where it is. If this is shaft 6, this isn't Prometheus's drawing. That often we don't know if that's how accurate it is. This is Steve Guptill's. 18 feet west. They're 18 feet west of Aladdin's cave.
Yeah. And some of those blocks are the measurements of them are 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
So you measure off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. You're at, 18 feet.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they got this diagram from or how they got.
I don't know. And that's really strange to me
Yep.
because according to this and according to the description, that makes Aladdin's cave the original money pit.
Yeah.
So is it really west?
I don't know.
I
Could be just
don't
they
know.
made a mistake when they were moving stuff around on the graph too. Hard to say.
Maybe, but that's where they're putting down
Yeah.
this shaft.
Oh yeah.
That's where this Caisson's going
Yep.
down right here.
Mhm.
So I
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm really kind of confused
Mhm.
now. And again, we need to get Steve back on here at the end of the season,
Yeah, and that's
Steve
shaft
Guptill, so we
8.
can ask him a little bit more description about all of this. And I don't know where shaft 5 was. I'm gonna have to look on that other map that we have about shaft 5 to see what that's all about. So I don't know, folks. I'm just a little confused, obviously about this because according to that, what we're reading, and if this is where they think shaft 6 is, if that's truly shaft 6, it's 18 feet from Aladdin's cave. Yep, no Seth tonight. Yep, he had other things that he had to take care of, so no Seth
Okay,
tonight.
the shaft 5 was 25 feet from the old money pit. So my
Does it
old
say
notes
which direction?
no.
Okay.
1861 is to get a new shaft about 25 feet from the old money pit. This would be the 5th shaft dug in that immediate area, the original money pit. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if that was 25 feet away and it's 18 feet away, there's 7 feet between the two of them,
Yeah.
unless they're on a different axis.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'm a little confused because if the money pit's supposed to be up here above the chapel shaft, just above the chapel shaft in that area, then that would put
Yep.
the money pit over in this area over here somewhere. Anyway, all right. We'll try to get some more information on
Yep.
this for you, folks, because I really want to know, and if I
Keep
can find
using it.
out, I'll pass it on to you for sure.
Yep.
Absolutely will. All right, so let's jump over quickly before we get back to the money pit again. Let's jump over to lot 5. They're still working in these. They got a couple of 15 by 15 foot spaces here that they're working on. And I guess this would have been considered like the yard of the building structure, where it was the circle structure. Now it's become there. You can see it there. There's these two 15 by 15 spaces, and then you see the original what used to be the circular um, spot over here, and is now this big foundation that they found. They're kind of working in the front yard to see what they come up with. And right off the bat in the show here, they find this piece of, well, they called it a piece of nail without a head on it initially. I don't think that's what it is. It almost looks to me like it's one of those, like a pin or like a latch pin for something.
Yeah, could be.
It's broken off.
Mm.
This is more like the nails, and she was holding both of them in her hand. Helen was, and she has this one back here. This is what they generally find, uh, all encrusted over time. This one, not so much. So that was pretty interesting to me.
Mm.
They get it over to the lab, and they do the analysis on it. And again, we got to find out all about the XRF and all that stuff.
I'm glad they explained that to us.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I almost forgot from
Mm.
last week what the XRF and the yeah.
They keep talking about that thing much more. If Emmett calls in sick, we'll be able to go down and take her place.
Oh, we all could do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did you think they rushed through a lot of things without spending a lot of time explaining in detail? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So definitely a square, pin of some sort, a hinge pin, maybe. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Some sort of a pin or a whatever. And so, but yeah, so they did talk about it a little bit, and she said it was more um like newer, right?
It's
So
pure.
more
It's
pure.
it's pure. Pure. The iron that was used has got less, impurities in it,
Hmm.
which makes it older.
So, she doesn't, let's see. Oh, they tested it with a magnet. It did work. The piece is
Yeah.
square, which indicates that it's hand forged, and the magnet shows that it's iron. And then they showed the other nail on there real
Mm.
quick. So I thought it was interesting. Hang on just a second. Let me get over to the actual lab portion of it here. Yeah. After running the CT scan on the nail, she told the group that it was older and it was an iron pin. She tells them that it was hand wrought and the composition is clean, which means that the iron will last longer.
Hmm.
She also tells them that the aluminum silicon ratio is characteristic of colonial American metals. Oh, thank
Mm.
you, Craig. 10 thank you very much, Craig. That's very nice of you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so um American colonial American. Okay. So where does that put us date wise?
The late 1600s to 1700s.
Right. And
It's right down the Phipps Alley.
you're right down the Phipps Alley. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm. And it's true. I mean, Phipps, Belcher, all those guys could have very easily been there, right? But
I
you have to keep
yeah.
in mind that the 1600s and the 1700s, the entire maritime region here was crawling with English and French and British.
Yeah.
And people from the colonies coming up this way that were based in the colonies, right? So,
Yep.
does it fit the Phipps timeline? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Yeah. A lot of stuff does. It's coming out of that area. It
Yep.
really does.
Now, if they can match this steel or this iron to the other iron that they found from his hometown, then it gets really convincing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Because
And
then
many of the metal things.
you're putting a source on it, right? This is where it originated from.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and that's really telling right there. So yeah, it's really telling
Yep.
when they can pull out, where it's from, where the metals are from. So
Yep.
yeah, good stuff. I took this picture here. I grabbed this one because you can kind of see looking over towards lot 4 and the little road they got going through there. If this structure, I mean, I really, how could they find out? Well, I would love them to run LiDAR on across the entire island again with some of the new technology. And Pete Kelsey could come out there and do it. He wants to. He'd love to go and scan the entire island with his drones and whatnot to get a better look at this, because the tomography on this thing here, you might be able to see there's other structures that were created on this in this area over here.
Mm-hmm.
Lot 4, very close to lot 5, obviously right next door, but there is potential in my mind that there are more structures that they don't even know anything about at this point. So I'd love to see them, be able to work that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump over to the swamp. You can see in this picture here how close they are getting to the water now at this point. One of the things that right off the bat, Jack found was this clay, this kind of this grayish clay that they have not really seen much of at all over
Mhm.
here in the swamp, at least in this area of the swamp. There's another look at it there.
Yeah, and it's clay. Clay you shouldn't be finding at the surface.
No, no, absolutely not.
So that's why he speculates that it was relocated.
Yep. And yeah, he kept saying that it's been relocated or dumped here from somewhere else.
Mm.
Um,
And if
yeah,
you look at the chunks of clay that they were pulling out of the money pit with the hammer grab last night, pretty similar.
yep. They were also talking about the rocks they were finding, and you pointed out right here the beach rock versus was that a slate piece of slate?
Looks
Now?
like a piece of slate.
Yeah.
And the reason you know it's not a beach rock is because it's not round, it's not smooth, it's a different rock altogether.
Oh, absolutely.
You put rocks down on a shoreline for a couple thousand years, they don't have any sharp edges like that.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So those two types of rocks were mixed together by someone.
By someone, exactly. So that's definitely put there.
Yep.
Here's it, and I like this picture here that they had
Mm.
shown last night because it shows all the different features that they have found in the swamp. And we've talked about this before, folks. About the fact that somebody put an awful lot of effort and time and manpower into building these roads and whatnot in the swamp. And as they have found this paved area right here, I mean that's clearly man-made.
Yep.
There's no way that was
Oh yeah.
not man-made.
No.
And that stick that was found, we've said this before, but that stick that Dr. Spooner found in there and had it tested the 1200s. So you've got all of this, and probably most of this was built in the 1200s. By who and for what reason? Why would they go through all this manpower to build this?
Mm.
So what they're finding here, continuing on, look at that. I mean, there's more of this stone road going up that way. And they started to speculate about the fact that it may turn. Let me get back to this picture here. That as it gets up here to the north end, that it may turn and go, this way.
Yeah.
Go towards Lot 5 and
Which
go
only
towards
makes sense. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're going to build a road or a pathway between the two drumlins, you're going to build it at the narrowest point, right?
Mhm.
So if you're going to build a path through there and connect it to anything, that's where you're going to build it. You're going to build it at the narrowest point between the two islands.
Yep. Exactly.
And as soon as you build that, then that whole swamp starts to fill in. There's no more water flow.
Right. And if you're concerned about this down here, I'm thinking that's where the actual, I don't know. I mean, could this have been an unloading, loading area here?
Sure.
Yeah. And so could this.
Yep.
Were they both?
Big boat, small boat,
Yeah. Smaller boat, bigger, a little bit bigger boat.
barge.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you're almost talking, yeah, two unloading areas or loading areas.
And they weren't necessarily used at the same time. They could have been hundreds of years apart.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So yeah, Alex, thanks.
You know,
Thanks for coming by.
it could be that as you go higher up into the north end of the swamp, as the places get older, which would make more sense, that's the part that would fill with sediment first, and you'd have to move your dock closer to the water.
Yes, very good point. That's a very good point. Yep. So that's why we keep saying that the swamp is very, very significant in this whole storyline. And yeah, and people often, get mad and upset about why do they keep talking about this paved area? It's just stupid. No, it's part of the history of what's going on. That they need to go through all this stuff to find out what happened there.
5 years ago, I was in the Marty camp. Put an X through the swamp and move on. Right? And now, nope. Rick was totally right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story. There's a story to be told in the swamp. He's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
5 years ago, you couldn't have convinced me of that.
Yep. I know. I was always one that held out for the ship shape anomaly, and actually being a ship that was over there.
Biggest problem for me with the swamp is it's open to the ocean, open to the sea.
Mhm.
Stuff's going to blow in there, and whatever piece of wood you pick up in that top, or anything you pick up in that top 1.5 or 2 feet, to me is suspect.
Yeah, right.
Even the heel that they picked up, the boot that they picked up. I mean, it's in,
Oh, you mean this one?
yeah, directly underneath the grass.
Yeah.
So how old is that? I don't know. It's
I
old.
that
It was made by a cobbler,
right.
right? But I can remember seeing shoes with cobbled bottoms on them, nails in the bottom, in the heel. So just because it had nails in the heel doesn't mean it's 300, 400 years old.
Right.
It
These
could be.
pictures here,
It
I'm
could
sorry,
be.
go ahead. Sorry.
It could be that old, but I'm just saying, just because it's got nail holes in the bottom, it doesn't make it from the 1600s.
Yep. This one here, these pictures are from the one they just found on the show last night. This is the one that they found last year, last year in the southeast corner of the swamp down that
Yep.
way. They talked about it briefly. And there's another shot of it when they took it to the bookbindery and had a look at it. The Landry.
Joe Landry? Is that his
Yeah,
name?
Joe Landry took a
Yep.
look at it and talked about,
hmm
about the old leather
Yep.
after they cleaned it up. This is back to what they found. This was all of what they found. Now, yeah, Joe Landry. Thank you, Coach. This particular leather, when they first found this, right off the bat, my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this could have floated in from anywhere. Especially because they found it so close to the surface. It could have floated in from anywhere. But then they found all these other pieces right there in the same area.
hmm
I mean, was it a boot that floated there and was stuck in the weeds and then slowly disintegrated?
Or it could have been somebody's old boot that they threw away in the swamp to get rid of it.
I think we don't know too much about all of this until we see it dated.
Carbon date the baby. Let's have a look. Yep.
Yeah. Let's get a look at it and see what date range it is. Now, if it comes back late 1600s to the middle 1700s,
Then we got something to talk about.
or older,
or older,
like that other leather they found in the Money Pit spoils. They found that was 1492 from Christopher Columbus's time frame. Oh man,
it tells you that area hasn't really been all that disturbed either, for all of that to remain there, right? Because they did find it in pieces, but how much of it was torn up by the bucket? How much did they, do when they were digging? But just to have that much of it remain in such a close proximity tells me that top layer has not been disturbed in quite some time.
Exactly. That's a very
Which
good
means
point.
Underneath it has gone even longer without being disturbed.
Yep. So, and there's been several things here now that they found, some of that wood and from the Money Pit and different places, and some of the wood that they found in the swamp. And this leather here, we haven't gotten any dates back yet from them on this stuff. So I know that takes a long time. But I want to know. I really want these answers of how old this stuff is. It's important. All right, let's do our giveaway. So this is our giveaway for tonight. For those of you who might not have been here at the beginning, this is it's a tote bag, canvas bag that's got some pictures on it of Oak Island and the Welcome Center, Interpretive Center, and the lab and Causeway and all of that, and then a sticker from Rock, Vanessa Lucido's Ranch Rescue. And then also a magnet. I am an Oak Island nut. So we're giving those away tonight. Linda is going to do a spin for us. Now, to be eligible for any of these giveaways, you must be a member of our Facebook group page, which is the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. And there's a link for it down below. You can click on that link to become a member. And Linda will put out a post on there showing the pictures of the upcoming shows giveaways. And all you have to do is comment on that post and say yes. That's all you got to do. Just say yes, and you're automatically entered. So, hi, Linda. How you doing?
Hi. Well, I dropped my phone. I started to move my computer. My phone went flying. Yeah, it's not a good day.
All right.
I'm fine.
So that's how you are. And then we also mentioned too that if you have for those of you who are here, you must be present at the podcast to win or to get the prize. If you're not, we're going to roll again or spin again and pick someone else. So you must say you're here. Now, if your name is different from Facebook over to YouTube, you got to let Linda know, because if you don't let her know, and we got somebody that the names don't match up saying, I'm here. Yeah, that makes it kind of tough. So, all right. So keep that in mind. You got to let us know if you have a different name on Facebook than YouTube. All right. Okay, Linda.
I do have about 15 names.
Okay, good.
So it may, if it's someone I don't recognize immediately, it'll take me a little while to dig through my book, but
Okay.
yeah, it's all good.
All right. I'm going to put you up here in solo layout so we can see
Okay.
the spinner. All right.
Turn my sound up. Here we go.
Get closer and I've seen Albert's name go by. Up a little higher.
Oh, up a bit. Linda.
Garfield Randall. Garfield Randall, are you here? Let us know if you're here. I haven't seen his name pop up in the chat at all today.
I haven't either. Randall, where are you? He is on my list.
Oh, all right. Then you'll have to tell us when you see a name, somebody popping up saying, I'm here, I'm here. So yeah. What was the name again?
Garfield
on
Randall.
here it's Garfield Randall,
Randall,
but his
right.
name is Randall.
Yeah. Let us know if you're here. So yeah, that another I thought we had some there. Nope, not yet. Nothing yet. I saw Albert's name go by.
Yep.
It was right close to the end there. Yeah, so really curious about this this whole road thing though. Seriously, going across the top and you know the whole swamp idea. Somebody said in the chat that they really think that that's where the secrets are. I really do. I mean, I'm like you said, you were, 5 years ago you would have said no, absolutely no way, but
No.
I think nowadays it's very there's a lot of interesting things coming out of there that just then that vault. I still hold out that little box that was in the ground was a vault that Anthony Graves found with treasure in it.
It was definitely used to store something.
Yep, absolutely.
Wait, let's
There's
do
no
this
doubt about
again.
that. All right, we're gonna roll him again. All right, so we didn't hear from him, so let's do it one more time.
Sorry, Randall.
It's so weird. Sometimes we can see the names and sometimes we can't.
Just the way it's tilted.
Yeah, I don't understand why that is.
Yeah, you're gonna have to read it for us. We can't tell.
Joe Horsley.
Joe Horsley. Is Joe here?
Joe's in the UK. Are you awake, Joe?
Joe's in the UK somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That's
He's one of our very first members of our group.
yeah. How many years ago was that, Linda?
4.5 years.
Wow. 4.5 years. Yeah,
Yep.
we've been doing this for 4.5 years.
We have.
And it has been a lot of fun. And that's why I still call it a hobby. It's still my hobby. It gets to be kind of expensive at times running up to Nova Scotia and Skinwalker Ranch and yeah, all these different places. Florida, going out with the guys down in Florida, treasure hunting and stuff. Yeah, it's gets to be a bit expensive, but oh boy, we're not hearing from Joe either. I've been here the whole time, Jan. Yes, you have. That's very true. You've been here the whole time, and we appreciate it very, very much. Oh boy,
Brian is sad because he can't enter until the finale now. He won a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, this is number 17, episode 17, right? So we're not that far away.
Yeah, there's Gazelle. Did the book arrive?
Yeah, Doug autographed the book for Giselle last week and has mailed it to her, but it's going to take about 2 weeks coming from Canada to get to her.
I've been so close, John says. All right, we might have to do this again.
Wow.
Okay, here we go.
Unusual.
Wow, we got 3 tonight here. All right, let me get you back up here in solo. All right, there we go. Man, we can't see the name again, but that's all right.
That's so weird. Just weird.
Tara
Lorraine.
Tara Lorraine.
Tara Lorraine, are you here? Hopefully you're here. I hope
It's a school night, but you're not in bed yet. Where are you? She's here in the Maritimes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tara's in Maritimes.
Yeah.
All right.
We did draw her name one other time this
It was
this
last week,
year,
wasn't it? The
and
week
she
before?
wasn't
A
here.
couple weeks ago,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Told me she had fallen asleep with the remote in her hand.
Well, hopefully that didn't happen this week. It looks like it might have. Ron, am I too late? No, you're never too late, Ron.
Oh, Ron.
Tara Lorraine. Nothing from Tara yet.
Yeah, she's watching. You'd hear from her pretty quickly, I would think.
Oh boy.
Okay, you guys.
Oh man, we're gonna have to spin one more time. All right, let's make it's got to be 4. It's gonna be the big 4, I think. Here we'll.
Yep, 4th time's the charm. I'm so sure.
All right, one more time. This will be
All
it.
I hope so, John. Kevin Mock.
Kevin Mock. Okay, is Kevin here? Hopefully, Kevin is here. Yeah, it may boil down to rock, paper, scissors. Oh, let's see. Oh, there he is. I'm here. There he is.
There you go.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Kevin.
Send me in a private message your address and we will get this in the mail to you. Thanks.
All right. Good deal. Whew, I thought it might take all night to get that.
I know.
But at the end of the show on it.
I'm going to need to take a nap.
All right. Thank you, Linda. We appreciate
Thank
you very much. All right. Get down there and get back to work. All right. That's what Marty always says. All right. Let's get back to work.
Yep. Nothing to see here. We're not going to find it sitting here.
Not going to find it sitting here, right? All right. Well, let's jump back over to the money pit because we have a lot more to talk about there yet tonight. This picture here, it's funny because, when they go through the whole episode and they're flashing these different pictures around, this is actually the garden, or not, I'm sorry, the garden. This is actually Aladdin's cave caisson that was going down Aladdin's cave right there. So that's not this one, but they were showing it as if it were the new one that they're putting in. They decided to go with Rick's Pick. Rick's Pick 1 is the new one that they're going to put down right there. They're putting it down right there in what they're calling Shaft 6, 18 feet west of Aladdin's cave, as we discussed. And this is that, looking back at this again, they're hoping to actually hit, part of the shaft, and they want to hit the tunnel, at least hit the tunnel where all the spoils and all the debris and all that crap flowed into from the collapse of the original money pit. Walls and all of that stuff that was down there. So that's what they're thinking. Everything's down in here. They want to hit that area. And you pointed this out. Was that TB1 near the garden shaft?
No, that's RP1 there.
Yeah.
When they're digging down last. Oh, was TB1 near the garden shaft?
Yeah, TB1. Well, TB1 was actually just off the northwest of the chapel shaft. The chapel and head and shaft. So
close to C1.
Yeah, close to C1. Yeah, there you go. That's better. Yep. Yeah, so at 82 feet, what do you got there?
Nothing but water.
Nothing but water.
They're only 70, 80 feet down. So guess what the rest of it's going to look like?
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. They only get down that far and they're already in water. So that's interesting to me. I know they're not pumping water down in there. But as they're going down with the caisson, they're bringing up all this water. So that fills up with water rather quickly. You wouldn't think that it would you? I don't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, unless, I have no idea where this water's coming from. Unless they're cutting through individual layers of water on the way down. It's coming into the shaft. The shaft goes down, blocks the water off. I don't know.
That's exactly what I was wondering. I mean, you're putting this caisson down into dirt. Now, when you see them doing that with the boreholes and they're putting this borehole down and they're at 80 feet, they're generally still pulling up mud or in situ or cobble or something. They're pulling up dirt. They're not coming up with buckets and buckets of water.
So it's this ground, like old loose ground that is so saturated from the, all the water they pump down with the drill program that it's just the ground is just saturated.
I don't know. It makes me wonder. I don't know if it's seawater or not, but it makes me wonder is almost all the areas down there soaked with water to up to in the 50-foot range below the surface?
I mean, 70, 80 feet down, they're 40, 50 feet below sea level right there.
Right. Yep.
So, I mean, I where all this water's coming from, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Swiss cheese.
Obviously
It is
not
Swiss
raining in the blue
cheese.
sky, so it's obviously not raining.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then Gary goes over and he's metal detecting over in the spoils they bring out with the hammer grab and they drop over there. And so he's over there doing all that. And he comes up with this piece of metal strapping, I'm going to call it. And this one with the rounded edge on it, it does seem kind of decorative, doesn't it? With this rounded edge right here.
Yeah.
It looks like a hole there. Maybe it's hard to tell if that's a hole or just a spot of some sort in the metal itself.
It's either rounded or worn from being beat around so much. But
yep. So he finds that one, and then he finds this one. Now, this one here, when he said that this is some sort of a strap off from now, we talked about that spike that they had found last week. And he said it was, oh, yeah, it's a nail from a treasure chest. No, that was not a nail that was a deck plank spike.
Deck spike, yeah.
Yep, a deck spike to hold down decking on a ship or something. And so that was definitely not one of those. But now I think he might be correct. Everybody's so quick to jump to, oh, it's a treasure chest. This one might actually be. If you combine that with this piece and you take a look at that piece, and then you take a look at, it looks like there's two pieces coming together and a rivet and a rivet in it.
The thing that I thought, and I noticed those holes, so I'm not really sure if those are natural or they look man-made placed holes. But when I first saw that whole piece of metal, I thought off a barrel, right? The metal hoop on the outside of a barrel, a wooden barrel, right? And it's the right size for it. It's got the, there it is there, right? The only thing it doesn't have is that rounded edge at the end.
Well,
but they do use rivets.
Did that rounded edge is that the rounded edge right there that broke off?
That could be off something totally different too.
It could be off something totally different. That's correct.
The only thing that made me think barrel is because in 1861, when the Oak Island Association did their drill program, all right, on shaft 6, they brought up a partial bottom of a keg.
Yep.
Okay. And, they just didn't ship treasure in treasure chests, right? A keg was used to ship anything, a keg or a cask, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
They could be used to ship anything from a liquid to gold, silver, metal, coal, flour, nails, you name it.
And that
was your shipping container of the age.
Yes, it was. I think it's more likely it would have been in a keg than in a treasure chest. And that strap looks like it could definitely have been a strap off of a keg.
So those ships would have had carpenters on them, and I mean barrels was what they did everything in. There's an example of a rivet in a hoop.
So you can roll kegs. Yes, thank you. Garage Band Time Machine says you can roll kegs. Yes, you can. Easier to move around.
If you look at any of the old pictures or anything, everything's in a keg. Doesn't matter what it was. That's how it was shipped. Boxes were hardly ever used. Barrel making was an industry unto itself.
Yes, it was. So now you go back and you take a look at all that strapping. I think it might be from a barrel.
That's what I thought. The only thing I couldn't figure out those 3 holes at the very end there. I couldn't figure out what those holes were.
Yeah, it does.
Again, we don't know what the design or the size or whatever it was. It looks like 3 holes right there.
Yeah,
at least 2.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know, but to me, it's a strap off a barrel.
Yep, I think you might be correct. And like I said, I think it's more likely that they would be using barrels rather than a bunch of treasure chests to haul the stuff around in.
Yep.
But anyway, it comes down to the point of why is it down there?
Correct.
That, like Marty said about that nail, that means that somebody was down there that deep in the ground. Now, where was this? Where was the strap?
97, wasn't it?
97 feet.
Metal strap, wrought iron. They're 80, between 80 and 90 feet. Let's call it. Yep. And
So
when they get
why
down to
would
97 feet is where they start pulling out the timbers.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, and again, when people say that there was never anything down there, that's BS. Honestly, it's BS because there was people down there.
Somebody was down there.
Right. What were they doing down there with big ship nails? And what were they doing down there with pieces of barrel? And like you just read, back in 1861, they found pieces of barrel down there.
Yeah, they brought up partial bottom of a keg, mud, clay, blackened wood that had been cut, hewn board, sawn, and also they brought up what they believed to be manila grass and coconut fiber from down there.
Coconut fiber. 2 human bones. Yes. Yes, there was 2 human bones in H8 that were brought up. So yeah. And then you've got this picture right here with Vanessa and gang at the table, and they look at all these bags. Look at all these bags laying there. So it wasn't just 1 or 2 pieces of metal strapping that they found. There were several pieces of metal strapping that they found. That Gary found metal detecting. Now, I really, really wish that one of those would have been a silver coin, because that would be would that not be Rick's the one thing if they brought up a silver coin from down there? Yeah. Look at all those pieces of metal.
The crazy thing is that, and the reason I think barrel hoop is there's no wood attached to any of it.
Yeah,
right?
That's very true. Yeah.
Right, because the hoops were placed around the barrel and then driven down onto the barrel, and they were held by friction.
You notice one thing that we can't see on any of this stuff?
No dates.
There's no dates.
No,
Look like there might have been a date right there that we can't see now.
It's on the other side of the bag, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it is, but they're hiding the dates from us nowadays. So yeah, lots of pieces of metal. Iron strap. It's written all over here. Every one of these says iron strap.
Yeah, I keep leaning towards a barrel or a keg, something like that.
I think so too. I think you're correct. Okay, so they keep on working away at this thing, and now they're in Rick's Pick 1, RP1. And I think this is a good case on location. Again, I had high hopes for AC1 in Aladdin's Cave, but that's now.
That was a heartbreaker.
Now it's gone now. No more AC1, no more Aladdin's Cave, and I think it's gone completely from us now. But this one has high hopes, so we'll see what they come up with. But here's this one going in. You can see all the work happening over here. I just love these pictures. Then that's a swamp. They found some swamp. I guess I mixed up one of my pictures.
That's her. Yeah.
Let me check these real quick to see what else I got.
That's Eagle Eye Catcher that's finding that stuff.
Yeah, he found a piece of wood planking. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he found a piece of wood in the swamp.
Yeah. Here we are. You see what it says on the side is 134 foot 1 inch. They're getting down there on this, going down a little deeper. And what did they find? Now, you had just talked about when you read that portion.
That's the clay. Yep.
That's the clay. You had just read. That's why I wanted to remember. I make sure we had this picture in here because you had just read in Scott Clark's book about the clay that was found down in the bottom of that shaft 6 area that flooded and shot into there when it all collapsed.
Yep.
And they come out with this big old chunk here that didn't even fall apart when they laid it on the ground. They had to come over and they used the excavator or the backhoe and knock it over so that it would actually, they could see the wood that was in it. Yeah. RP 170 feet and the swamp clay. Yeah. I was wondering too, why the clay? Yeah.
It's pretty close. Actually, when there's a couple of shots last night, I couldn't grab them, but when they were moving things around in the swamp with the bucket and the shovel, they were actually chunky looking clumps of clay, very similar to what you see coming out of the hammer grab.
Yep. Yeah.
Which shouldn't be there, right?
No, it shouldn't. Yeah. Here they are knocking it apart or trying to, and then the excavator reaches over and knocks it apart even more to get to some of the wood. You see all the wood pieces in this thing. And they had this piece. I couldn't get a good shot of this thing. It was a piece of it looked like highly polished wood. I don't know what that was all
smooth,
about.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
Yep, it was. Let's see. 97 feet. The group continues to search through the spoils. Rick notices some timber and they find axe cut wood. There's some more wood coming out.
What's crazy there is they're finding 2 types of wood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which would be, you know, a good thing for Rick, because you're finding 2 types of wood. You're finding the old as cut wood, and you're finding, as Scott called it last night, dimensional lumber.
Yep. Yes.
So you're finding basically two types of timbers, let's call it.
Yeah, that was very important part of this.
Mm-hmm.
2 different types of that. I was thinking, was that different types of tree or different types of cut? Maybe both.
Different types of cut.
Yeah. And that's significant. If you think about that, folks, that's really telling. Go back again. I know I'm going to repeat myself here, but go back again. The original money pit collapsed. The wood collapsed into the shaft that they just created, shaft 6. Mm-hmm. And all the timbers that they put into shaft 6 and then tunneling over that 18 feet while they made it 17. They were tunneling over. They had wood in there. That's going to be a different age of the wood that came crashing down out of.
In theory, if both parties, the original money shaft guys and the 1861 guys, were using relatively, let's call it fresh cut lumber, mm-hmm. or newer lumber, say within 10, 15, 20 years, if they could date those 2 sets of different types of timbers, they should be more than 100 years apart.
Correct.
And if they are more than 100 years apart, then bingo.
Yes.
There's your one thing.
Bingo. That would, you're right. That would be, that's not treasure, but that's your one thing right there. Yep. Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up, Tom, because that is very, very key. If there's 100 years apart, and they talked about dating this wood. So again, this is another one of those things that we need to get a date on. I need to know what this is all about. I need to find out the dates on this stuff.
Yeah. And John says, from a wood perspective, this is some of the most we've ever seen. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at the way they line it up, right? But what it also tells me is that if that's 2 ages of wood, right, they're taking this out of a excuse me, a vertical hole, right? Okay, when shaft 6 collapsed, it collapsed into, when the original money pit collapsed, it collapsed, if that was a money pit, collapsed into a tunnel that was connected to shaft 6.
Correct.
So would the force of this collapse actually drive some of this stuff back up shaft 6?
I think it would.
They're taking this from a vertical hole. They're not going horizontally to pick this lumber out, right?
Right.
This is a vertical caisson. So all of this lumber has gone up into a vertical shaft.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like they're going along the bottom of a tunnel picking it up.
Look at all that.
Yep.
All that is out of this hole.
Yep. And vertically from a 5-foot wide space.
Right. And all this wood really didn't start showing up until they were down about 100 feet.
Yep.
And shaft 6 was 118, right?
Yep. 97 feet. Yeah. Or they're now 97 now. Yeah. Shaft 6 was 118 feet.
Yeah.
So if they keep going down to 118 feet, they should keep finding lumber if they're on shaft 6.
Right.
If they keep going.
I'm gonna show this picture one more time because this is, in my opinion, if this is accurate to where they actually put this caisson, and it, according to what this shows, it is. If they hit this, did they also hit part of that tunnel that's leading over that 18 or 17 feet of tunnel? They should have hit wood all the way down. If they were coming down the edge of this shaft like this, they should have hit wood all the way down, but they didn't. They weren't really pulling out wood until they got down to about 100 feet. So, they may have scooted over just a little bit.
Yeah, and we don't know how much of shaft 6 actually collapsed either.
Exactly.
Like, did they leave it? Did they pull some out? What did they do?
Yeah.
Did they backfill it? I doubt they backfilled it, but
yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, so pretty interesting there. So we'll see. That's definitely something worth. That line of wood, though, that really gets me. You see all that whole line of wood back there.
Yeah.
How much they have taken out of that area, out of that hole. That's a lot of wood right there. I can't wait to see the dates. I'm just really, really interested in the dates and the type of wood, the tree type that they pulled out of there. All right.
And keep in mind the tunnel that they dug right from the bottom of shaft 6 over to what they thought was a money pit was only 4 feet wide and 3 feet high. So you're crawling.
Yep.
This is not something you're going to walk through.
Exactly.
So the length and the dimensions of that lumber could be very telling too.
Yeah, Rick can make a lot of cribbage boards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean cribbage boards from money pit wood like this one?
This one?
Like this one? Look at that. With all the signatures of everybody on it. There's Rick right there. Yeah. This is one of my prized possessions. Thank you. Oh, yes. Money pit cribbage boards. Yes, indeed. So that was pretty much this episode going through. Again, I was really saddened by Aladdin's Cave, but we do have next time on the Curse of, and we're going to talk about Tales just a little bit too here real quick. So hang out with us just a little bit yet, folks. So next time, this is going into next week's show. Another interesting find. I can't really tell what this is in Fiona's hand.
Kind of pottery, isn't it? In her hand.
Yeah, in her hand there. Is that a piece of pottery? No, I think it's a pin or something.
What's Laird?
That Laird is getting a picture of. He thought it was pretty significant. Okay. Yeah, it's very small. You see it in her hand right there. I don't know what it is. It looks like a little pin or something. Eagle eyes for sounding that. But when they looked at it, and we're assuming that it was it that they saw in the lab later on, we don't know, but we assume. But this is when Laird said, that was my aha moment. So how much significance does this little thing have to the story, right? Yeah, and look where they're down to. 226 feet.
And they're pulling out water.
And they're pulling out lots and lots and lots of water. So I would say at 226 feet, and you're right, down here, they're about 210 maybe. That's
just a rough guess. I said take 10 or 15 feet off the top probably.
Right. So that caisson is down about 210 feet in the ground. That's about time that they got using all of them, all these caissons, and get down there pretty deep. And we're assuming, of course, this is still RP1, Rick's pick 1. Could this be the one that was left in the ground? I still think there's one more, at least one more.
I think they did 4 for sure, maybe 5.
Yeah. So I don't know if this was the one left in the ground or not. It's very close to the one that was left in the ground. So, yeah. And you see Rick pull something up from the spoils. I don't know how deep this was, if it was 200 feet down or whatever, or if it was only, 100 feet down. We don't know yet, and we won't know until next week when we see the show. But it does look like a piece of dowel.
It does, yeah. It's awful round, whatever it is.
Now, what were the dowels used for down there?
The only thing it could be used for is joining together timbers.
Joining together timbers, exactly. Mm-hmm. And what did Marty say when he was looking at this stuff? He said something about could be a piece of the original money pit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that pin that they found and they were looking, or whatever that was that Fiona had, they were looking at in the lab, they said 85 years before the discovery of the money pit. So whatever that was old.
And it just goes to show you that nobody actually really knows where the original money pit is.
Exactly. I know it doesn't.
It's all still a best guess.
Yeah.
If you'd have just left that tree standing with the block on it, they'd been fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, right? If it hadn't died or whatever happened to that tree, for sure. So the Tales of Oak Island. We'll be here next week and we'll be talking about this. Also wanted to mention too to everybody that tomorrow night, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show. Tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, we have Jan Franke. Jan was out at the island and he was over there with Craig, and they were doing that GPR that he created to go down into boreholes, and they had put it down, and they were on the northwest side of the garden shaft, and they were putting that GPR down in those boreholes, and he found that there was a void down there that they didn't find when they did more boreholes in the area. So he was there and he was doing some testing. He's a GPR expert. He creates a lot of this stuff. I did a little video of him coming on the show. He'll be here tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. He was also at Skinwalker Ranch. Okay. And he did he GPR'd the mesa on top of the mesa and then going up the mesa. And he's the one that came up with all these anomalies that are underneath the mesa, these void areas or some kind of a structure underneath the mesa. So tomorrow night, Jan Franke. Now, here's one more thing he's really going to be talking about. He's going to be tying all of his technology together into those three places. The other place is Egyptian pyramids.
Pyramids.
On the Giza Plateau, the Egyptian pyramids. How many of you people, I'm going to get a show of hands in the chat right now. How many of you people have seen some sort of social media going crazy about this, all these structures that are supposedly underneath the Giza Plateau, underneath these pyramids, talking about these big giant pillars that are
2 kilometers deep.
Is as deep as the Eiffel Tower and covers a 2-kilometer area. Okay. He knows all about this. I think his words to me were this: I have full access to the site. I know all about these claims. And he used the word claims. Tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You're going to want to be here for this one. He's going to be talking about Oak Island, Skinwalker Ranch, and the Egyptian pyramids and what could be under them. Folks, this is going to be a good show. I can't wait to talk to this man. Mike Owen's going to be joining me for that one, and we're going to talk it up. All right, let's go to Tails. Now, I didn't grab any pictures from Tails. This particular one was called Booby Trapped, and it was basically talking about the flood tunnels, which we have seen have plagued every single searcher in the 230 years of searching the money pit in Oak Island for the treasure.
It's a great history of I guess running into what I call the curse. The curse being water, and water stopping the best laid plans of men.
Yep. Exactly right. And
how people tried to get around it.
Yeah, exactly. And I never knew the Arrestalls talked about finding this 1.5 foot diameter hole in I hadn't heard anything about that. It was
I'd heard they found what they thought was a shaft of water, but I didn't know it was only 1.5 feet.
Yeah, 1.5 feet. And then they poured concrete down into this thing, trying to stop the flood tunnels. Now, we also know that they had done, not those guys, but there was a dye test. Do you remember who did the dye test back then?
I can't remember who did it. I know they poured it down C1.
Was it Chapel? Well, yeah, that was our guys. That was in recent times they did that.
No, Chapel did it. Chapel did one. Yeah, I think Chapel did it. Yeah.
They did it back in the time of Chapel. They had done a dye test. They put this dye down inside one of their drill holes or something like that, and they saw it come out on both ends. They saw it come out in Smith's Cove and in South Shore on both ends of the island.
Fred Blair did it.
Okay.
1897. Fred Blair. Yeah.
Okay. So they had surmised at that time that going after flood tunnels only in Smith's Cove was not smart, because it was actually coming, from both sides. Had they done flood tunnels from both sides? Pretty crazy to think that they had, but they got the dye. Now, when the Laginas did the dye test, they did not have any of it come out in the South Shore, only in the Smith's Cove. And it was a trickle that came out into the and he was talking about how the flow was getting stronger and stronger as it was coming out in there. So these flood tunnels, I'm still, I don't know if I'm still absolutely convinced that these things, I guess, are there. The fact that they're finding seawater in the money pit says that there's definitely seawater getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
But is it coming from anything natural, or is it definitely coming in through a flood tunnel?
I think this is one of those things where both things can be true.
Yes, that's very true. Yes,
right.
I agree.
Because we know the Duke Donvie's guys are supposed to dig a tunnel to the shore.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep.
We know people have been poking around the shore. We know people have found the coconut fibers or whatever type of fibers you want to call them. So we know there's some people poking around the shore. We also know that there are natural caverns under the island, and if you drill or dig in certain spots, you're going to hit them.
Yep.
So two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
What could have been the cause of one person's problems may have been a natural cavern. What could have been the cause of another person's problems could have been a flood tunnel.
Yep. And we know Dan Blankenship, and he went over and he actually put, found through divining rods, or he was doing the divining rods, and found a cavity up behind the money pit area, up on the hillside there. And that's what told him to do a borehole, and he found an opening down there that is now called 10X. And so that was 230 feet down. I think it was 230 feet. So, and he found an open cavity down there as well. So when
we also know they dynamited the shore in Smith's Cove trying to close them off.
Yeah, and that just made matters worse. I think.
Did it close some off and open up other natural caverns to the ocean?
Yeah, possibly.
May have done more harm than good.
May have done more harm than good. Exactly. And then and the fact that now the Laginas were down there at the beginning of this season. They were down there digging in Smith's Cove, trying to get down. They were trying to find the evidence of the Restalls where they had concreted this in this 1.5 foot hole where they put concrete down there. And they did, in fact, find concrete. So they're pretty certain 232, Robert, thank you. 10X, 232 feet.
Yeah, 232, 235 was 10X. Yeah.
Yep. So they did actually find concrete, chunks of concrete. Was that the concrete that was Restalls were trying to use? I was hoping at that time when they were digging over there and going down so deep with that long reach excavator that they were actually trying to block them off. But I don't think they were. They were trying to find them and prove that they were there, and then use that as a line to go to the money pit.
Yep. That was going to be their bearing. Yep.
A bearing point. Right. Rather than trying to block them off. Marty had once said that it was almost at this point, it was almost impossible to try to block off the flood tunnels because of all the dynamiting and the digging and everything that had gone on over the whole course of 230 years. It was almost impossible to try to block them off. I think the only way you could actually at this point block them off would be putting in doing a freeze or some kind of a big dig in the money pit where that's going to be to block everything off. One thought I had once was perhaps the depositors were far too clever with the traps and accidentally blocked themselves from recovery. Yeah. I mean, you think about that. Is that possible? Yeah, it is.
Anybody can make a mistake. And
the story of the guys going down, and they talked about this on the show last night too, on Tales yesterday afternoon, when they had originally, when the three Vaughn, Smith, and McGinnis had originally were digging down, and then they got that company that was the original, the Turo company, I think was
Turo company, yep.
And they were digging down, and they got to the 90-foot stone. They found the stone supposedly. They brought the stone up. Then the next morning they go back over, and now it's flooded all the way up to about 30 feet below the surface. And they thwarted their efforts to be able to get down there any further at that time. So you would think that when they left that night, it was a dry pit. They had a dry shaft that they had put in. It was all dry, and they found that 90-foot stone. And I mean, boy, to try to create something that would have been activated by that 90-foot stone, I can't even imagine how it would even work. To be honest with you,
no,
I really don't know. No, Peaches, the 90-foot stone has never. Supposedly it was around back then. Lately, they have not found it. In modern times, they have not found it. It went from a fireplace mantle stone, supposedly, in the Smith house, then made its way to a bookstore, or I think it was a bookstore, wasn't it?
Last time they saw it, or was claimed to have been seen, was in the window of a bookstore or something in Halifax.
In Halifax. And they went looking for it, and they found one that was about the right size, supposedly. Yep, that was the one that Doug had found, but there was no inscription on it. There was no way of determining was that the actual 90-foot stone. I mean, it sure had the right, according to the storybooks, it had the right size and shape and everything to it. And and it was a very hard stone. It wasn't some limestone that was pretty easily chipped away. But I don't know. And they figured it was in the basement, and so they figured it was used in the process of making book bindings and stuff like that, and pounding on it. But anyway, so they never did. They never have found it, so we don't know if that thing existed. But so if somebody had created some that great to where you take that 90-foot stone out and that creates the flood coming in, that's pretty ingenious. Did that trigger everything? Did anybody ever come back? The depositors ever come back?
The only reason I can ever think of that 90-foot stone being down that deep is that it wasn't a clue. It was part of the original roadmap of where to find the treasure. And this thing about 40 feet below was that stone actually up at the 50-foot level, 60-foot level? Anybody could find Oak Island back in the day. There was, 16 different ways have already been described as to how to find Oak Island. So all you have to do is find particular markers or stones to tell you where to dig. So was this one of those particular stones or markers that told you where to dig and how deep? And if you did find what was ever there, you buried that, right, as evidence that you were there and took it and recovered it and left it behind. Right? The boys find the indentation in the ground. They dig down. They find the marker that somebody left there on purpose to show that the treasure had been recovered, or whatever was left was recovered. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
or was the whole thing just made up?
Yeah, that was interesting, Kat, where they had that. They did go out to that house in Dartmouth, and they looked underneath that flower, that big plant,
the big bush, tree, whatever it was.
Rhododendron. And they didn't find. Yeah, Helen's house there. Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they looked hard enough. They did find a lot of rocks. I mean, there was a lot of stone down there for whatever reason. But I don't know. That the 90-foot stone is one of those things, or was it a tool that was created to try to get people to invest in the company so they could get more investors and continue the search for the treasure?
Yeah. The only thing is with the 90-foot stone, according to James McQuiston, there's only one symbol on there that was not a Freemason symbol. Was that James McQuiston that told us that?
I think so. Yeah.
There was one symbol on there that wasn't associated with Freemasons.
Yeah. So, and they found similar symbols over that were recorded.
Yeah.
Supposedly some guy did the inscription, and but no rubbings were ever taken of it or anything like that.
All from memory.
Yeah, all from memory.
All from memory.
I don't know. But to trigger the flood tunnels and all of that, I don't know. But anytime that anybody, if you have any dream, like the Laginas or anybody else, if you have any dream of getting down there, other than just simply taking let's say, and Thomas, is a good question for you too. Okay. If they actually find treasure on the bottom, at doing what they're doing nowadays by putting caissons in and drilling boreholes and all of that kind of stuff, the only way they're going to ever get anything up off the bottom is by doing some sort of an airlift type of situation, right? Or having to do some sort of a big dig. I mean, how else in your mind would they ever get anything up off the bottom of that?
To do a complete clean out. I mean, if you found something of
they pull up a couple coins.
A couple coins, you're going to go all crazy over that? Maybe yes, maybe no. If you were to find a significant number of coins, you could link to something or something of religious significance or extreme historical significance, then you're going to have, people in, major investors lined up from all over the world that want to do a big dig, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But if you find a Spanish real down there, and you find one, are you going to do a big dig? No, because you can go get those things at your corner store.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to have to be something of historical relevance.
Right.
That would make you say, okay, full stop. We now have to figure out how we're going to go down this thing, 100 feet wide, 100 feet deep, or 200 feet deep, whatever it might be, and do a pure archaeological excavation. Everything below, say, 90 feet.
Yep.
The first 90 or 100 feet just comes out and gets thrown in a pile somewhere.
Yep.
Everything below 90 feet's got to be done properly.
Yes, I agree. That's pretty much what they're going to have to do at this point, because I don't see any other way. If they pull up a caisson, and that's why he's over there metal detecting. Every time the caisson drops all the stuff on the ground, and Gary goes over there and metal detects it, he's looking for, hopefully, to find a coin or two, or a piece of gold or something, a chunk of gold or something. Pulling up those straps, which I think were barrel straps, could have been off a chest, but those barrel straps, very significant. And that, in my mind, that is very significant because, again, it shows you were people down there that deep. But if the hammer grab comes up, and let's say it has 4 or 5 coins in it one of these times, or some sort of a metal plate, or some kind of a golden something or other, they drop it on the ground, they go over there and find it. Okay, now at that point that this caisson is on top of some treasure.
Yep.
Or it seems like it. Now comes that question that we just talked about.
We also know that if you watch any of these gold recovery things, like the one they do up off the coast of Alaska, right? There is piping that you can put down there, right, with a pump above surface that will actually, with water, bring all that gravel and earth with it.
Yep.
Right, because we've seen it, so we know that can be done. It's to what extent do you do it?
Yeah.
Again, to me, it's all about what is the historical relevance or significance of what comes up out of the hole.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And that's a good point that Coach just made too. Some things do get missed in the metal detecting that they do because they find stuff on the wash table or the wash plant.
Yeah. And also the other thing too, Coach, was stuff that's on that wash plant. That could stuff this out of the top 50, 60, 70 feet that they don't really consider relevant. It's just going down the hill in the back of a truck, and it's getting dumped and flushed.
Yeah.
It's never been detected.
Yeah. 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 Gary does swing that thing pretty fast, but he knows what he's listening for too. That's a good metal detector that he has. Those mine labs are nice. And I have Garrett. I use Garrett. I've never used a mine labs, but that's a good one for sure. And he knows, and the pitch, the tone tells you tells you if it's iron or not. He knows right away from the pitch of the tone that what it is. But yeah, obviously he misses some stuff, or does he even metal detect that first 60 feet or so? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just goes right on over. So they can run it through the wash plant. But so the flood tunnels.
Why can't they build a positive magnet for non-ferrous metals? Well, because non-ferrous metals are non-magnetic.
Yeah. Yep. So Mine Lab 800. Yeah. So the flood tunnels, going back to what I was saying before, that if they're going to have to deal with the water at some point. We talked about that with the garden shaft. They put the garden shaft down there. It was flooded by water just like everybody else was. So if you're going to get down there and you're going to send, be able to get down there and look around, you have to deal with that water, or you're in the situation of sending a diver down so he can suck up everything off the surface down inside there, or you're going to do an airlift type thing. If you find a few coins or whatever, now comes the point you have to make that decision. Do we do the big dig now or not? Or do you come with the biggest caisson? What's the biggest caisson they make? I don't even know.
I don't know.
I mean, we've seen 10 footers, but you're going to have to go down.
I would expect you could build, depending on, you build some pretty massive bridges and things like that. So I would expect there's probably some you could even assemble on site that would be quite massive.
For sure. But the end result is you're going to have to deal with those flood tunnels or the water that's in there. You got to
just the water period. You're over 100 feet below sea level. There's going to be water.
Yeah.
It's not. The thing is, it's not solid rock.
Yeah. If you go into this thinking that you're going to be able to, put a shaft down there, walk around down there, that's impossible at this point.
Oak Island itself really is basically glacial till. right? The slate is on the west drumlin.
Yep.
Everything on the east drumlin is basically glacial till.
Yep.
With a little, maroon till and clay mixed in for a good measure.
Yep. So check out those Tales of Oak Island if you haven't already. They are good shows, and they do. You will see some repeat information that you may already have seen, but you're going to see more about each one of those subjects. Like Hedden, I thought the Hedden was very good.
It was exceptional.
Yeah, Gilbert Hedden. I thought that show was very good. I think all of them were very good. So check those out. They're available on the History Channel. You can go watch those after the fact. I watched it. I actually missed part of it yesterday at 5:00 because it was on so early, and I went back and watched the whole thing again today. So it was very good. So we may see more tales coming along. Nobody knew that one was going to be on at 5:00, so we may see more as we go along here. And episode 17. So yeah, we got 7 more to go, something like that. 7 or 8 more to go, something along
Probably.
those lines. Yeah. And then we're going to be jumping into Skinwalker Ranch. But don't forget about tomorrow night. Jan Frankie, tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And next Thursday night, we've got Pete Kelsey and Eric Bard from Skinwalker Ranch, because that show is coming up here in just a few months. So we've got Pete Kelsey and Eric Bard next Thursday night, April 3rd, I think that is, right here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So you're going to want to check that one out as well. So, Tom, last thoughts? Is that it for you?
I'm good for tonight.
All right. Well, thank you, folks, for being here with us tonight. We very appreciate it very, very much. And as I said before, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and click on that notification bell so you know when new content is coming out. And if you liked what we did for you tonight, please give us a like. Give us a thumbs up on that. We appreciate that as well. That's it for us. We'll catch you next time right here on the J3 906 podcast. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Jan. Good night.